Let's start talking about the hockey side of things. Canes did what they were supposed to do last night. Smoked the Caps. First of all, let's get the nuts and bolts out of the way. Canes clinched the postseason for the 7th consecutive year. That's impressive. I think it's expected, but that's impressive, right? It's one of those things that I think you look back on years into the future and you're proud of, even if right now it's like, cool, on to the next. Also, the Canes are now 75-5 in regular season games when Seth Jarvis scores a goal. So that continued. He is the definition of a good omen. When Seth Jarvis scores, heck, take whoever you want off the ice, you're going to win. Now, 5-1 victory for the Canes. They looked like what they should look like, which is a talented, fresh contender coming off multiple days rest that is starting to peak or is peaking at the right time versus an older team with some goalie issues on the second night of a back-to-back on the road. Washington is still one of the best teams in the league. We're talking the hockey side. They're still one of the best teams in the league, but Carolina did what contenders do to tired opponents in their home arena, beat them badly. And that's not to take anything away from what the Canes did, because that's all good. Like that's what you should do. You get credit for doing what you should do. There's teams all across the league that don't do the expected. So shout out to the Canes, and we could point to a lot of good things. Freddie was really good in net, particularly early on, which helped the momentum get rolling and everything get started. Let's actually hear from Rod in the clip we have here. Rod Brind'amour on Freddie being great at the beginning and keeping the Caps out of it.
He was really good. There was a couple, they got in alone a couple times and made, good saves at the right time. I think that to me is what it's all about, right? Like they get the first one or they get one to tie it up. It's just a different feel, and he was solid early, and that's what you have to have.
It's what you have to have. I completely agree, and Freddie is starting to have some of the cumulative stats that are really. It was won his last 7 starts, his last 8 he's allowed 2 goals or less. There's some really good consistency things coming out of Freddie. That's fantastic. The lid is off the net for Jackson Blake. Turns out he needed 1 goal that he didn't have to shoot. And now all of a sudden it's all good, right? A couple games ago he got the credit for the own goal. Now he's finding the net with skill and accuracy. The power play scored 3 goals last night. 3. There was a point in time where it would have taken better part of a month to get 3 goals on a power play.
First time they've had multiple power play goals since December 7th. First time they've had 3 power play goals in the game since Halloween when they beat Boston 8-2. Put that into perspective. It's about to be Easter.
Halloween feels like a long time ago.
It's because it was a long time ago.
Power play scored 3 goals. Let's hear from Jarvis on why the power play has been clicking recently. Obviously, Jarvis a part of that unit.
Told you before, the power play's kind of hot right now, so we're starting to figure it out a little bit more. I think we've all been kind of in the same spots now for a little while, so we're all getting comfortable with each other, knowing when to give outs, and it's nice to see we're scoring in different ways on the power play.
They are scoring in different ways. For a while there, the power play was catching on, but it really was just Taylor Hall catching on. Now it's starting to diversify a bit, although he did have another power play point last night, so shout out to Taylor Hall. Get the extension done. We could go on, right? Stankoven's goal, beautiful, being set up beautifully by Roslovic, who felt like needed a moment like that. Like there was a lot of good from the actual tangible like stats and highlights of last night's game for the Canes. But from a hockey perspective, the thing that I like the most is they rose to the challenge in a super intense environment. We mentioned it yesterday before the show, so I have no problem calling it, or sorry, before the game on the show yesterday, so I have no problem calling it back now. That was kind of, I'd say, like you're never going to completely simulate a playoff environment in hockey. Playoff hockey is something special. But that was pretty much nearly as close as you can get in a regular season game as far as just intensity, and every time you had the puck you were being challenged and both teams were being physical and all of those things. And the Canes obviously rose to the challenge. When there were turnovers that led to breakaways, Freddie was there to bail them out. When there were shots to be made, they made them. When you got the opportunity for a power play, for the first time in a long time, it wasn't almost like existential dread watching it, right? Where you're going like, I just hope that this isn't awful. There was actually like, oh, good, you have the advantage. Oh, yes, this is going to be fun. They rose to the challenge in an intense environment. And there are some teams, some players, and if you could quantify it, if you could measure it, you'd be the best GM in the history of sports. There are just some units that the bigger the moment, the better they are. And I'm not saying that was proven last night. I'm not saying it's been proven this season, but I am more optimistic about the Canes rising to the moment now than I was this time yesterday. That's worth something, right? And then, there really is. I really do consider it like two separate sporting events. There was the hockey, in which case but they dominated, and there was the third event, which was like the refs deciding that they wanted to give Ovechkin a 5-on-3 to go get his, which
right.
I think was kind of perfect. Get up 4-0. See Ovechkin, get a small part of history on his way to doing some things and still get a dominant victory. If the third period didn't go the way the third period went, that would have been like kind of a perfect night, right? You get your dominant victory. Canes get to stamp it. You get the little mental edge. And also, hey, you know what? When Ovechkin breaks the record, you get to say you saw a little tiny piece of greatness. Not the whole thing, but just a little bit of history. It felt good. Now, if I'm Burns, I'm not super stoked that they called a little phantom penalty on him, but there was a lot going on there. There was a lot of moving parts, and everything was coming up Canes. And then, to quote the Canes Twitter, not my words, the official Canes Twitter account, we witnessed an A+ hissy fit.
Yeah, we did.
From the Washington Capitals.
We did.
Which then is essentially the opening bell to the second sporting event of the night that took place in the Lenovo Center, which went from a hockey game to a team-on-team UFC fight, to a brawl with tag team partners.